Hello, GAConf. I'm Kennedy, aka Dynamic Reactions, and welcome to Facing the Future, a history of positive disability representation in video games. I'm a content creator and accessibility consultant working with the wonderful folks at PlayAbility as the emotional or mental health consultant. I also have cerebral palsy, so sometimes I consult on the motor side of things as well. When Ian approached me last year to do this talk, he suggested I come up with a list of my favorite disabled characters, 5 to be exact. This was like asking me to find 5 needles in a haystack. I might find 1 or 2, but 5? I decided to make a list of characters that I know well, but I wanted to pull from characters that were original creations, not belonging to other IP, and characters with depth and breadth in their stories that included playability. Because I believe we're in a stage in gaming right now where inclusion isn't enough in disability representation. Inclusion is great, but inclusion is the bare minimum when it comes to storytelling. If we as creatives, and I'm calling you creatives because that's what you are to me at its core, making games is an art. If we as creatives want to truly destigmatize disability, then all disabled characters can't just be your run-of-the-mill NPC. They have to have depth and breadth to them. And while they don't all have to be in the player's hands, I believe they are more impactful and lasting when they are. So today we're going to take a trip through time to explore the disabled characters that I think have exceptional stories, and in some cases mechanics, in hopes that these characters inspire you, for lack of a better word, to create disabled characters with just as much depth and breadth as these. At the end of the talk, I'm going to give everyone 3 points that I personally believe make a well-rounded disabled character. Bentley, Sly Cooper 3. Bentley from the Sly Cooper series is a disabled character ahead of his time. He doesn't start out as disabled at the beginning of the series. Rather, he is paralyzed at the end of the second game and is a wheelchair user from the third game onwards. He is the trope of the guy in the chair. Often, when he's written about, you'll see journalists engaging in the stereotype of, oh my god, he's a genius, so he overcomes the limitations of his disability by using his smarts to build this cool chair. But the way that Bentley is written in Sly Cooper pushes back against these stereotypes. The mechanics of the games he's disabled in often switch POVs between members of the team and Bentley. If a platforming stage is inaccessible to Bentley, his friends will make it accessible. It's part of your mission as a player to help your explosives guy participate so that he can use his awesome rocket boosters on his chair to get to where he needs to be. A main storyline in the game is Bentley coming to terms with his frustration that comes with not being able to operate in the same way his crew and his girlfriend does. And his girlfriend reassures him that while he can't do what Sly and the others do, he's still able to do other things. And reinforcing this idea is the ability that a player has to roam around the world as Bentley, platforming and stealing from others. Not only is Bentley an integral part of his team with a support system that values him enough to accommodate for him, he's also capable of independence on his own terms. And I'd like to reiterate, he has a girlfriend. They both catfish each other extremely poorly, but she doesn't see him as something to be coddled or infantilized. She sees Bentley as fully Bentley, and that's a wonderful thing. It's not something we often get to see in media with disabled characters. The game also addresses the shame that a friend might feel when they witness an accident that disables someone you love, and how people reconcile over it. Sinua, Hellblade. I'm a psych major, so I wasn't going to leave characters with mental health issues out of this list because mental illnesses are disabilities too. I'm sure we all know Hellblade for its amazing sound design in this crowd. If this is somehow your first time hearing about this game, please, at the very least, watch some Let's Play clips of this game after this. As someone with a special interest in psych, I could wax poetic about the portrayal of schizophrenia in this game for hours. In the story of Hellblade, you play as Senua as she travels to the underworld to retrieve her dead husband's soul. Immediately, when the game starts, you're introduced to her through narration, which seems normal, and then you realize there are multiple voices that she hears, and you realize you're not in a normal mental situation. This is why I love the opening of this game so much. One of the reported ways some people with schizophrenia hear voices is in a narrating role. These voices stay with her the entire game and throughout the second game. They never leave her, and we explore the trauma and grief that she is processing throughout the entire game. She does not get her husband back from the underworld. The entire combat journey was in her head as a way of processing her husband's death, as well as the trauma of her childhood due to her father's ableist abuse. But she learns to accept her voices as part of herself. Hellblade's first installment is an excellent example of what it's like to process grief and trauma as a disabled person, but not drown yourself in it. May, Night into the Woods. I bet you might be a little surprised to see her on this list. However, much like in Hellblade, May suffers from depersonalization disorder, maybe a little bit of PTSD, without explicitly stating it in the game. We, as the player, understand that she left college after a tragic incident, but it isn't revealed what that is until the end of the game, when she admits to having issues that cause her to feel like the things and people around her are just things that exist, not things with deeper meaning that she should care about, but in her words, just shapes. We learn that she comes from a household with some abuse trauma earlier in the game. And the way that the game presents these things is in a way that isn't grandiose, but simply a part of the narrative until May opens up to her friend about her struggles. It's indicative of the cycle that someone's mental health can go through when you are healing from trauma. It takes time to open up about the things that happen to you. And in that journey, your brain processes things in different ways. For May, it was dreams, music, and hanging out with her friends. Her mental health journey happened through the mundane setting of her town for the majority of the game, which is what I think makes it so impactful, because disability doesn't have to be grandiose. It happens and impacts the everyday in all stages of life. And she learns to process her emotions with a support system. Clank, Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is a great game, accessibility-wise, and the disability representation through Clank is an extension of that. It is an unexpected and well-rounded area of the game that I find absolutely precious, though I should say that not every disabled character needs to be a robot or a turtle or a cat. I think there should be some humans in there as well. Clank's story very much centers around the loss of his arm at the beginning of the game, and the mourning that comes with that, but he comes to accept his disability. Even after getting a new arm in the credits, it's not the same as his old arm. It's similar to Rivet's prosthetic, who is also disabled. It's yellow, symbolizing change. Haley, Spider-Man 3. Haley, my beautiful Black Queen. She is the only character from an unoriginal IP on this list. While she has a small role in the first Miles Morales game, it was amazing to see Black Sign Language showcased in an accessible way. And I was beyond excited when her role was expanded as Miles' love interest in Spider-Man 2. It's rare for us to see a disabled woman in an interabled relationship or romantic relationship, period, in media. The game also makes a point to show her interests in art. The side quest she stars in is an immersive one, in the same way that Hellblade is immersive. As you go through her art quest, you can't hear anything happening except for a few muffled noises. This little moment in Spider-Man is an incredible way to have the player exercise empathy, and I hope they expand on it more in the future. I would live for Haley smacking Carnage with a 2x4 or something. Put my girl in the action, yo. To wrap everything up, we're going to discuss 3 things that make a well-rounded disabled character. Adaptation over overcoming. For many people with disabilities, we live with them forever. It's not something that gets fixed. It's not something that gets fixed by mobility aids or medicine. Our mobility aids and medicines are an adaptation to our reality. And it's harmful to insinuate that just because we have a new arm or a fancy wheelchair, we overcome the limitations of our disabilities. Those disabilities do not disappear. It's more appropriate to say that we adapt. Adapting happens in nature. It's something that is natural, and it can be pretty difficult at times. However, our ability to adapt is what makes us unique. It gives us strength that others may not see. Mourning periods over what was or is over long-term depression or pity. If a character becomes disabled through an accident or other circumstances, it's normal to have difficulty adjusting to that new reality. It's normal to mourn what was or is their new reality. Now, what isn't normal is staying in long-term depression or having characters around them express pity without it being addressed. It is a negative stereotype to assume that all disabled people are depressed and that we're sad about the way that we live. Again, we adapt and we still have things we love to do, regardless of the things we can't do. There has to be positive representation of disability in gaming as a medium in this regard, because what people consume informs them about how they treat us in real life. So it is vital for them to see a disabled character that might go through complex issues, but can process their emotions, grow on their journey, and celebrate their uniqueness. Support by those around them, and in turn, an existence that is as unique as the character themselves. All the characters I've listed here today have a support system that loves them for who they are. In Hellblade, Senua has her husband, and even though he's gone, he helped her see that her illness is not some curse. Bentley's friends and girlfriend help him feel included in missions and are with him as he processes the emotions that come with being disabled, as are Maze. Haley finds her support within her school community and Miles for her art. Disabled people thrive with social support through aids and how those we love support us. These 3 things, in my opinion, are key to understanding the disabled experience. As always, though, when you're creating a character with a disability, you want to make sure you consult someone who actually has the disability you're trying to portray. Nothing about us without us, of course. If you're looking to represent mental illness, you always want to ask a medical professional for their opinion on how to portray it accurately, as well as someone going through the illness themselves. Thanks for taking a trip down a gaming timeline to explore my favorite disabled characters in gaming with me. I hope these examples inspired you to make more in-depth disabled characters for your games, and hopefully allow people to see disabled people in a different light. If you want to find me, you can DM me on Twitter or Blue Sky here. I don't post on those sites often, but my DMs are always open. I also have a website here. I love to work with you on any new projects, and please check out my wonderful homies at PlayAbility. Thanks for listening and learning.